Welcome. Today we are delving into a mental practice known to very few that stands as the single most powerful key to transforming any area of your human experience, most especially your financial affairs. This is not about repeating hollow affirmations to a mirror, nor is it about desperately visualizing material possessions from a place of deep interior lack. It is about something far more profound, entirely real, and infinitely more reliable. For decades, the great spiritual teacher Emmet Fox observed the human struggle with deep, unwavering compassion. He watched men and women exhaust themselves in the physical world, fighting against invisible walls. Through this observation, he came to realize that the core problem of poverty or limitation is never a lack of hard work, nor is it an absence of inherent talent. The problem lies much deeper. It resides quietly in the silent mental patterns that operate beneath all human action. These hidden patterns mold your reality with a cold precision that the conscious mind rarely perceives, dictating what you can and cannot achieve before you even take your first step. Fox discovered that there is a specific, systematic, and deeply spiritual mental practice capable of rewiring these patterns from the inside out. This profound shift is not achieved through tense, exhausting willpower, nor through a desperate, clawing desire for things to change. It is achieved through a gentle but firm alignment with the divine consciousness that dwells within every human being, without exception. This practice does not require perfect external conditions, a quiet monastery, or years of esoteric spiritual preparation. It requires only your understanding, your willingness to experiment, and the supreme courage to release what your human mind fiercely believes to be true about money, about struggle, and about yourself. Emmet Fox would often begin his legendary lectures with a single question that left his students in absolute, contemplative silence. It is a question I ask you to consider now. How many hours a day do you dedicate to thinking about what you truly desire to experience, and how many hours do you spend consumed by the terror of what you fear losing? The honest answer to that question reveals the exact, unvarnished state of your current financial consciousness. The human mind has a deeply ingrained, almost magnetic tendency to focus on lack. This is not out of inherent malice, nor is it a personal weakness. It is simply because your mind has been continuously programmed by years of repeated societal messages regarding scarcity, difficulty, economic crisis, and limitation. Over time, these external messages solidified into automatic internal patterns. But these patterns are not permanent fixtures of your soul. They are merely mental constructs, habits of thought, and with the correct practice, they can be entirely dissolved and rebuilt. The divine consciousness within you knows absolutely nothing of lack or limitation. It knows only infinite abundance as the natural, joyous expression of God's love. Your only real spiritual work is to align your human mind with that eternal truth. To truly comprehend this practice, you must first understand a fundamental, unbending principle of spiritual philosophy. The mind is not simply a passive instrument for observing the world or processing daily anxieties. It is the active, dynamic channel through which formless spiritual substance is organized and manifested as visible reality in the physical world. Your thoughts are not mere reactions to your environment. They are active, potent instructions. The invisible spiritual substance of the universe receives and obeys these instructions with absolute fidelity. When a mind is constantly occupied with vivid images of crippling debt, unpaid bills, and lost opportunities, that mind is literally instructing the spiritual substance to organize more of the same conditions. This is not a punishment from an angry God. It is simply spiritual law operating with the exact same unemotional precision as the law of gravity. Understanding this principle is the most liberating news you could ever receive. It means you possess the real, verifiable capacity to transform your conditions entirely from within. It means that no financial situation, no matter how dire or deeply entrenched it appears, is permanent once the correct mental practice begins to actively operate upon your consciousness. The man accepted the challenge and followed the instruction. 30 days later, he returned to the group with a story that shifted the energy of the entire room. If this teaching is awakening a profound truth within you, I invite you to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the ongoing spiritual transformations documented for our modern time. The man who had challenged Emmet Fox returned with a completely different expression on his face. He recounted that during the first 10 days, the practice felt almost absurd to him. His rational, fear-driven mind resisted fiercely, screaming about the very real, tangible debt sitting in his desk drawer, while he sat trying to contemplate divine wealth. But Fox had taught him something crucial. The mental practice does not consist of foolishly denying your present reality. It consists of intentionally elevating your gaze high above the present reality to contemplate the spiritual truth that exists behind all temporary, shifting appearances. This distinction is the vital difference between superficial, fragile positive thinking and genuine, unshakable scientific prayer. By the 11th day, something imperceptible but undeniably real began to change, not in his bank account, but deep within his own interior landscape. A profound calm that he had not experienced in decades began to quietly settle over his mind. The exact same debts still existed on paper, but his mental and emotional relationship with them had completely transformed. He no longer felt like a victim to them. And then, the external changes arrived, precisely on schedule with spiritual law. First, it was an unexpected call from an old client wishing to resume a lucrative collaboration. Shortly after, an unprompted and highly favorable job proposal arrived entirely out of the blue. In just 30 days, his financial reality had begun to move and reorganize itself in ways his rational mind could not possibly explain away as mere coincidence. Emmet Fox taught that these types of experiences were never supernatural miracles, defying the order of the world. They were the exact, predictable, and scientific result of a spiritual law that operates with the same unbreakable consistency as the physical laws of the universe. When your internal consciousness changes, your external conditions simply cannot remain the same, because the visible world around you is always, without exception, a faithful reflection of your mental world. To truly master this transformation, we must move beyond foundational theory and step directly into the precise mechanics of the mental practice that Emmet Fox taught. He called this specific, powerful method active divine contemplation, and he was exceptionally careful to distinguish it entirely from other forms of meditation, relaxation, or visualization you might have encountered before. The fundamental, defining difference of this practice lies not in how you sit or how you regulate your breathing, but entirely in the target and object of your contemplation. In this specific system, you do not contemplate your own personal desire. You do not visualize a pile of money, nor do you desperately imagine a specific, contrived solution to your most pressing financial problem. Instead, you direct your complete attention to contemplate directly the absolute nature of God as the infinite, inexhaustible, and ever-present source of all good. From that initial, grounding anchor, you do not beg. You do not plead for relief from your bills. You remain in a state of active, highly focused mental silence for 15 unbroken minutes. You contemplate the sheer, boundless abundance of the Creator, not as a special favor you are asking for, but as an established, unshakable reality that already exists and flows completely naturally to anyone who simply opens their consciousness to receive it. However, there is a critical, devastating trap that catches thousands of sincere seekers, a trap Fox aptly called the divided prayer. Consider the documented case of a dedicated student named Sophia. Sophia practiced her 15 minutes of morning contemplation with flawless, rigid discipline. Yet she spent the remaining waking hours of her day discussing her crippling debts with friends, actively worrying over her rising expenses, and voraciously consuming news that violently reinforced her mental image of global and personal economic scarcity. Her earnest morning spiritual effort was being completely neutralized, washed away by the countless hours of negative, fear-driven thinking that immediately followed. She was attempting to fill a vessel with pure water while simultaneously drilling massive holes into its base. The true mental practice, therefore, is never an isolated morning event. It is a continuous, day-long endeavor. Every single thought and every casual conversation is an active opportunity to either reinforce your new consciousness of wealth or to fiercely fortify your old, limiting patterns of poverty. Whenever your mind inevitably slips back into the familiar, well-worn grooves of lack and worry during the day, you must ruthlessly and immediately interrupt it. You intercept the fear with this firm, non-negotiable affirmation: "The abundance of God is my divine heritage, and I receive it with immense gratitude right now." It took Sophia 90 days of this rigorous, continuous spiritual coherence to see her material world tangibly transform. The first signs were purely internal, a growing, unshakable sense of peace and an untethered, quiet confidence that made no logical sense given her bank balance. Only then did the external shifts arrive, stabilizing her finances through unexpected avenues and opportunities in ways she could never have orchestrated through sheer human effort or desperate networking. For specific urgent financial crises that require immediate intervention, we employ a more targeted, surgical tool within this system, the metaphysical treatment. This treatment is not a vague prayer. It is executed through 5 precise, sequential stages. The first stage is recognition. You declare, internally in deep silence or spoken aloud, that God is the only actual presence and the only actual power operating in your life and in the frightening financial situation you currently face. You deliberately force your mind to elevate far above the details of the problem. The second stage is unification. You firmly affirm your inseparable, organic connection with that divine presence, stating clearly, "I am a child of God, and His perfect abundance flows through me now without any obstacle or delay whatsoever." The third stage is realization. Here, you declare the absolute spiritual truth of the financial situation, not as a desperate, pleading wish for the future, but as a bold, unwavering recognition of the perfection that already exists in the invisible spiritual plane right now. You recognize that the supply to meet your demand is already created and present. The fourth stage is thanksgiving, and it is precisely here that most individuals falter. Genuine gratitude in this practice is only effective when you have reached a level of inner conviction so profound that you naturally give thanks for the financial resolution before it has manifested visibly in your bank account or mailbox. When profound gratitude flows organically from a place of having already received the solution in spirit, the physical manifestation in the material world becomes an absolute inevitability.